We're getting catified with a great person who knows all things feline. She is Dr. Michael Delgado, a PhD after her name. We are delving into her new book, and it is something you need to get your paws on. Play with Your Cat. This lady's a scientist, but she's got a pretty interesting background, and we got to dive in. Come on, bring on your guitar. Tell us, because you've made some life changes. You thought, okay, I'm going to go to school and do this. Then you saw a guitar. Tell us what happened.
Yeah. So I was not the kind of person who knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I really was just kind of, taking things as they come.
Yeah.
I went to college and realized that I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I wanted to study. I was, early 20s. And what I really wanted to do was start a band. So I dropped out of college, moved to California, and started a band. I started a few bands. I was playing.
Give me a couple names.
Yeah. Well, they're punk bands that probably most of you have not heard of. But my first band was called the Cinnamon Imperials. And that was a band where I basically just walked up to some women I knew and said, do you want to start a band with me? And then we found a teenage boy drummer, and it was really fun. And yeah, I've recorded a few albums with some of my bands and toured, got to travel around the country and play in empty bars and people's backyards and
your bass guitars.
Yes.
You're okay. Go.
Bass guitar is my main instrument. I like to dabble in other things, but basically there was probably a 15-year period where music was kind of my passion. And then, the animal sheltering world opened itself up to me in 2000 when I started volunteering at an animal shelter. And
you went to a pretty prestigious animal shelter. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was very lucky to be living in San Francisco, and the San Francisco SPCA certainly at the time was very unique in its approach to sheltering animals, because it was a cage-free environment for adopters to meet cats and dogs. And they also had, very prestigious behavior programs. So Jean Donaldson was working there at the time, running the dog behavior program. And there happened to be a cat behavior program too. And so basically, as soon as I found out there was a cat behavior program at the shelter that volunteers could participate in, I was like, ooh, I want to do that.
So what is about the attraction to you with cats?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a few family cats growing up, and, I lived in a pretty rural area, so they went outdoors and didn't have long, healthy lives. That was kind of the thing back then, is cats get hit by a car and you get a new one. But when I was a teenager, I begged and begged and begged my mother to let me adopt a cat, and we got a cat named Kittums. And he moved with me to California, he and my other cat.
I thought it was going to be named Joan Jett, really. I mean,
no. Okay. Yeah. Where did Kittums come from? I'm not sure. But then my next cat was named Jesus, which I found very humorous. It was, it was kind of a...
Amen.
I was being an obnoxious teenager. But yeah, so, I've always liked cats, but I can't say that, again, I wasn't the kind of person who was going to grow up to be a veterinarian. And it wasn't until I worked in or volunteered at the shelter that I even knew you could have a different job working with animals. And I was like, oh yeah, people here get paid to do this work. Okay, this is interesting. And I volunteered there a lot. And then when a job opened up, they offered it to me. I think they knew I was there all the time anyway, so they might as well hire me. And that was kind of the moment that I was like, I want to be a cat behaviorist. I want to understand this. I want to help cats. I want to help owners understand their cats. And I worked in the shelter for about 8 years, and then realized that I wanted to go back to school and first I had to finish my bachelor's degree because I was a dropout, but I wanted to study behavior in a more formal way. And
you did.
Right.
I mean, you have a doctorate degree. Is that from UC Davis?
UC Berkeley.
UC Berkeley. Yeah. And then you went and did a postdoctorate fellowship, right, at UC Davis. So listeners, she's got brains and she's got cat compassion. And you've written a book before with Jackson Galaxy, the guy from My Cat from Hell. Love the guy. And this one, your new book, Play with Your Cat. I'm so glad that you're talking about play with a purpose, because it's really important. But one thing in your book, you said, affecting play, there's different factors. I was surprised. You said the gender of the cat and the body health type can influence. Can you explain those two?
Yeah. So when I was looking at all the possible things that could influence your cat's play behavior, course, we always look to biological differences, right? So sex differences, personality differences, and the literature actually suggests that there's not a ton of differences based on sex. Both, and if you think about, okay, hunting and play have a lot of overlap in why cats do them, then it would make sense. Every cat needs to be able to hunt to survive, in theory. Of course, nowadays we chuck a bowl of food down for them, so they don't need those skills to the extent they would if they were out on the streets.
Right.
But that instinct is there. So we will then see that all cats should play because all cats need to be able to hunt. That is in them. When I'm looking at things like body type, what I really want people to do is think about their cat as an individual.
Okay.
Is your cat physically fit? Are they a little bit on the chunky side, right? And so I have a whole section in the book about how to deal with cats with disabilities and cats who are overweight or older.
That's good, though. You're inclusive. Yes.
Yeah. And I want people to not just dismiss like, oh, my cat's fat, so he can't play. Like, he's just not that into it, right? So you just have to kind of tailor the play to what he can do. So maybe that means he's doing more laying on the ground and rolling around with the toy than, again,
good. Yes. Get him going. Yeah.
A shy cat may need different things than an outgoing cat. So I do want people to just really understand their cat and how they can learn more about what that particular cat needs. There's no one size fits all. People really want like here's how you play with every cat in the world. And it's not that simple.
I'm glad. Yeah. But you're blazing a new trail, if you would. It's kind of scary, I bet, to be getting into new research because there's not a lot out there. So you're actually setting some basics and some standards, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And the nice thing is that there is new research being done on cat play behavior. So I'll probably need to update the book in 10 years, but that's okay.
Oh, darn.
But, I think the nice thing about cats is that they've certainly, since I started working with cats in 2000, I think we've seen a lot of improvements for cats as far as people's interest in taking good care of them. Yeah. Certainly, interest on the internet has escalated. We know, of course, that has downsides in addition to the benefits. It's just that sometimes we see people doing things that go viral that maybe are not the best for the cat's welfare. Right. So but on the other hand, we do see a lot of people who have, adopted a cat, really want to take good care of them. They don't hold back in spoiling their cats and giving them what they need. And that's certainly the audience that I'm hoping to tap into. But really, I think everybody will hopefully learn something from this book. But
what about your cats? You have 3: Coriander, Ruby, Professor Scribbles.
Yes.
Don't know what you call them as a nickname.
So I have 3 cats. They're sisters. So they're all females and they're all tortie tabbies. So I went for the tortitude factor. But really, I tell so many of my clients to, if they want to get a kitten, to adopt at least 2 kittens, right? So they can play with each other and grow up together. And knowing that, naturally occurring cat groups like feral colonies tend to be matrilineal. They tend to be comprised of related females. I was interested in adopting, a litter or, members of a litter. So when we lost our last cat during the beginning of the pandemic, that was my cat Clarabelle, and she had large cell lymphoma, and she was a fantastic cat. She was like definitely my heart cat for, but after she passed away, we decided this was an opportunity to just get 3 cats at once. Why not go through, one of the main reasons that I'm called for cat behavior help is cat introductions gone wrong, where, people have a resident cat, they introduce another cat, and now they're fighting. So I was like, I think I'm just going to skip the introduction and just adopt litter mates. And then they already know each other. And so that's what we did. Go. Yeah. So they
had a womb with a view when they were. Yeah. So, what's their favorite play style? What's a game you play with them?
Yeah, it's a great question. They're all, so, as cats are, they're all individuals. They definitely like, well, Coriander is very food motivated. So she likes.
Well, she's got a kind of a kitchen name. Go ahead.
Yes. She likes anything that involves training and working for food. So she uses food puzzles. But with play, they love, it's going to sound weird because, again, it's food, but they love green beans.
Oh, I've heard that. Yeah, some cats dig it.
So I tie a green bean to a string and I attach it to a wand and I drag it around. They love that.
I
On the
have
other,
some visitors come over and they see a green bean on a
Yeah.
string in your living room.
yeah,
Oh, is that what we're having for dinner,
Exactly.
Dr. Delgado?
I have gone to the grocery store and bought 3 green beans, and the clerk is like, "What's going on here?" I'm like, "They're for my cats."
Okay, good. You're funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, they like a lot of feather wands. They really like the Ripple rug, which is this really cool
Oh, yeah.
toy. It's like a prop for play where it's got a rug that's a base, and then it has a rug that velcros onto the top that has holes in it, so you can kind of make caves and tunnels. They love that, and they like anything with the stick end of the toy, like poking through a hole or underneath a piece of fabric or tissue paper. They love tissue paper, but they're pretty run of the like. They like feather wands. They like anything kind of small and bug-like on the end of a stick and a string is good for them, but they do get bored of the same toy pretty quickly. So I do a lot of homemade toys to keep them interested. That's kind of how the green bean came into being. It was like, okay, it's when it's fresh, it's nice and juicy, and then it kind of gets dry and weird and hard, and they like that too. And then we compost it and get a new green bean, and they seem to be satisfied with that.
Hey, everyone. We're speaking with Dr. Michael Delgado. You got to get your paws on her book. It's called Play with Your Cat. We also need to have people know how to follow you because I do know you co-founded Feline Minds. So how do we track you down?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have like too many websites, but .com is my cat consulting business. So that's where people should go if they want to hire me for a behavior consultation.
Okay.
And they can learn more about that service there. I also have a blog called whatyourcatwants.com, and that's me really translating science for a lay audience. So just trying to bring the studies about cats to your everyday cat person in a way they can understand what the science found, what it means, how should we think about it. And I also co-run a website called foodpuzzlesforcats.com.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I run that with Ingrid Johnson, who's a cat behavior consultant from Georgia. And the goal of that website is to encourage people to use food puzzles with their cats. So not quite play, but definitely part of the predatory or hunting behavior, right? Is that working for food? So yeah, and I'm on social media. People Google me, they'll find me. I'm mostly on Instagram and Twitter, or X. So yeah, I'm around.
Okay. Hey, I'm so happy we finally got to have you on the show.
Me
We need to
too.
meet in person someday.
Yeah.
But thank you for telling us about your book, and thank you for being a trailblazer for fine felines everywhere. I'm a better human because of the kitties in my house, including pet safety cat Casey.
Thanks so much for making our tails wag by watching this guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life. Four-Legged Life. Make sure to subscribe so you're up to date with all of our Four-Legged Life content. Four-Legged Life. Four-Legged Life.